That's fine. Let me make a start. That's fine while we're doing that. So it is lovely to be here. I came across the marketing meetup probably a year and a half ago. Came across it online, like a lot of people, started watching and listening to the podcast. And I had an ambition that I wanted to be more involved, and I wanted to speak at TMM events. I got a little taste of that a couple of months ago when we were doing the Futures, Northampton Futures, Digital Futures, and this is our first actual event. I can't quite believe that Joe is here, one of the mighty in the industry to introduce me. That my wife has been playing there's a little bit of bromance going on. But Joe, it's not about you. It's about me. No, it's not about me. It's about you. No, actually, it's not about you. It's about our customers. And that's what we've got to think about for today. Not all customers are the same. Not all customers want the same thing at the same time. So today, we're going to take a look at a couple of marketing models and see how we can make things more relevant. And I'm going to try and bring it to life in as fun a way as possible. Some of us will still need cheering up from Sunday. I appreciate that. Just mention it now and then move on. Therefore, what we're going to try and do is just use those marketing models, overlay it with some balloon twisting. Why wouldn't you? And actually just look to see how we can show that different customers have different needs as we go in the same way that we can create different animals from the same number of twists. That is the plan. Now, it wouldn't be a marketing presentation without a stat, right? Photo opportunity for one that needs it. So this is a recent study from Smarter HQ. 72% of consumers saying that they would only engage with marketing if it's tailored to their specific interests. So not only do we need to be relevant, but we need to put the effort in because there's a commercial benefit to it, as well as the customer experience, as well as all the wonderful marketing things that happen when we actually get it right. And this is not the only stat. There are a number. As a couple from a couple of years ago said that 78% of consumers would actually have a higher purchase intent if content was personalised. So relevance is important. And I think because I specialise in email, and I'll give you a little potted history in a second, that ability to be able to reach an individual with a specific message helps me understand the importance of relevance. And therefore, it's the framework of which everything I do as a consultant sits. So this is the mantra of which I live. Relevance engages, and engagement converts. And if we can remember that and keep that focused and central to everything we're doing, we're going to go a long way to being really customer-centric in the approach that we take, boosting the performance that we get from our marketing, and actually really extending that lifetime commitment, engagement, loyalty, value that we get from our customers. So I kind of have a blended experience. So I have 20 years actually doing the job. I supported that by getting a postgraduate diploma in marketing because I wanted to put some theory and some models and some structure to the real world experience that I'd had. So I describe myself as an independent consultant with a specialism in email and CRM. When I'm not doing that, I twist balloons, I'm a drummer, I'm a runner. Clearly, I can only do things that end in ER, and actually doing a half marathon almost ended up in ER. Different story. And it really kind of helps set the scene for frameworks, because actually, if I held Jerry, let's introduce ourselves to Jerry, and I said, right, let me give you one of these, now go build Jerry, you probably look at it and go, that does seem quite complicated, I don't really know where to start, and I'm going to spend a lot of time getting it wrong and making it up. What I need is some kind of expert that just breaks it down into individual steps, individual sequences, in this case twists, and actually then suddenly I've got a framework, a way of working that's going to really help me speed everything up and give me the expertise I need. And that is why I love frameworks. I cannot lie. It simplifies that thinking process. It gives you a set of questions, a set of considerations in a very specific order that helps you get from A to Z, helps you take that thinking through to its planning conclusion, and it takes a lot less effort to think about how am I going to do this, and it gives you all that time and space to go, what am I going to do? So, less time kind of working it out, more time actually getting the job done. So, which very neatly segues into our first framework for today. So we're going to start with segmentation, targeting and positioning. Often referred to as STP. This is marketing. It's got to be a 3-letter acronym, right? Always makes them sound slightly because that's how we refer to sticky toffee pudding in our household. So it gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling just thinking about it. And effectively, it's probably one of the longest running frameworks because of its simplicity, but again, because of its effectiveness. And effectively what it does is it says, okay, out of your total audience, you will have a group that are individual. I'm going to put Jerry down. Now, who would like to own Jerry? There we go. There we go. You can take Jerry home. That is fine. So out of your total audience, you will have a number of different subsets. And we'll talk in a second about how we can start to understand who they might be and define them. The middle section then, and this is the bit that often gets missed when people are kind of working through this framework, is the targeting. And effectively what that says is we've only got a certain amount of effort, finite time, resource that's available to us. Do we do everything for everyone, or actually do we use our targeting to say who's going to be the most effective? Where are we going to get the most value back? So that might be in sheer volume. Actually, I've got one segment that's much bigger than another. Or it might actually be their current value, however we measure the success of our outcomes, or the potential of that. And that's where frameworks, often you'll get frameworks sitting within frameworks. So within targeting, we can look at our recency, our frequency, and our monetary value, so RFM. Always going to have a good 3-letter acronym attached to a 3-letter acronym. See how many of those we can ladder up, which then helps us with our targeting. So once we've got a clear idea as to who our group is, our subsets, and whether we're going to go with them or not and target them, then we can start thinking about our core messages and our positioning. Which then starts to kind of look at our segmentation a little bit. So one of the easiest ways of doing that is to look at life stage. Segmentation often, most businesses go, I need to be more targeted, I need to be more relevant, I need to be more segmented, but actually making the start on that can be quite difficult. So life stage is something that every business can understand. I know I've got prospects, I know I've got people that are considering me, I know I've got someone who's only used me once, I know I've got multiple users. So it just helps to be able to kind of break down those different segments into something that everyone can understand, from the senior leadership team who know nothing about marketing, through to the marketeers, through to customer service, all areas of the business. Often you'll see it presented as a funnel. We've got all our kind of clear things. I quite like the circular because actually most of marketing is not a single journey. So actually what we do is, once I've become aware, considered, that's the shortlisting, used you, then actually potentially we've got consideration for additional products, cross-sell, repeat. So we get into what's then referred to as the loyalty loop. And I think that's much more useful as a construct to kind of work with. Clearly, if it all starts going a bit peaked on, then actually we're going to have a group of customers who either start to slow down from using us or stop completely. So what we can clearly see is actually the messages and the way I approach someone who's only just become aware of us, to somebody who's used us once, to somebody who's used us multiple times and stopped using us, becomes very different. So that helps us start to then build our relevance considerations. The descriptors are useful, but actually what really helps when we're looking at content is to think about the psychology of it and the behaviour that sits behind those segments. So again, in our awareness stage, what am I searching for? Or what's my customer, my prospect searching for? What's going to inspire them? What's where there are fears? What's going to capture their attention? For consideration, actually this is about that shortlisting. So are there FAQs, are there testimonials? What's going to get them excited? There's a lot of brand messaging here. It's about actually how do we differentiate ourselves? Why would you want to buy or use me in some way? And as importantly, what am I not as an organisation or a business? In that first use, actually that's a mixture of just the promise of the marketing message, meet the action experience, and that's a whole sales, marketing, business function conversation. But also, how can we make that as enjoyable as positive as possible? So actually, if they're using it for the first time, how do we support in terms of product video support or ongoing, how can I help, or other customers have said, or here, how are you making the most of your products, which then helps towards our loyalty in terms of educating and also treating them like we recognise them and they've got a value to us. And if they're moving into that lapsing box, then how can we encourage them back? Why? What do we know about and understand about why they've stopped or reducing their use that we can do? So you can see that if we start to kind of look at this, it becomes very easy to start going, actually, which bits of my messages do I need to have to then start bringing relevance into what I'm doing? So we've explored the principles of segmentation, targeting and positioning. Now let's have a look at how we can start to use a framework to ensure that all of our campaign planning can train some relevance. So this is something that I kind of put together based on kind of experience and a kind of blend of planning models. It's an 8-step consideration. I'll take you very briefly through it and then we'll get on to some balloons. Don't panic. I've got the promise of getting the marketing spiel. So what this does is it, again, gives us a very deliberate set of steps to kind of work through. So the first thing that we need to do is, as a business, what are our objectives? All marketing activities should ladder up to a business objective. What's the business trying to do? What does the marketing division or function need to do? And therefore, what's the individual activity sitting underneath that that supports that commercial objective? And that means that there's a shared language between the senior leadership team and the marketing function, rather than somebody looking at the other and going, well, why are you doing that? Or I don't really understand, and therefore making it very difficult when you have the next budget or business case that you need to build. Alongside that then, you will have your marketing proposition. So this is not about what am I going to say to an individual, this is more about what's that mix of messages, what's the menu I've got about who I am, what I do, why I do it, what makes me different in terms of my kind of business. So we start to kind of just articulate those so that we have them available to us. And then our third step then is about actually which segments are then going to start to look at. So that's where we then ladder up that segmentation consideration to start to break down my total audience into those individual groups. So that means that when we get to step 4, and only then do we start to say, based on who I'm going to be talking to in this particular segment, which of these marketing propositions are the most relevant to that group, that are supporting a commercial objective in some way, which then means that I have a clarity as to what I'm talking about and why, and then we talk about how do I contact, when should I contact, and the campaign mechanics. The trap that we all fall into is we're so busy just getting the stuff through the door that we go straight into tactical. I just need to get something out there, and actually I haven't got really time to think about this, so I just end up sending the same thing to everyone. Come back to our 72% stat. And then we can kind of finish off with some feedback, so we get our reporting and our analytics back in terms of kind of what's working, what's not. And then that final step, which is not really, is about kind of, it does the relevance work. So this is actually asking your customers for their feedback. I call it taking the customer's pulse. How many business marketers forget to actually talk to our end customers? We don't go and sit with customer services and listen to those calls. We don't ring our high value customers up and go, actually, how's it going? Again, the more we can do that, the more we will understand and remove the assumption that he's working with everything else. So, I hear you asking, how, Nick, are you going to turn that into a balloon modelling exercise? Well, I'm glad you asked. So, let's assume that you've got your total customer base. So each colour balloon would represent one of those segments. For the sake of brevity and everyone's sanity, we'll just work with 2 for today. So let's say that within our audience mix, we've got our prospect customers and we've got existing customers. So we know we've got a clear difference, a clear segment between them. So we're still going to work through exactly our steps that we do, but actually let's see what different outcomes we get. So our commercial objectives probably are going to be the same for everyone, no matter what we're doing, because that's about the business, that's what we do. Then we've got our marketing proposition, so that's the list that we've got. We know that exists, and we've got an idea of who our segments are. So in this case, it's going to be our prospect customers. So we lock those in. See where we get to? Now, this is where it gets interesting, because actually those key messages for a prospect are going to be much bigger, wider, and deeper than somebody who already knows us, who's already using us or posting. So we've got our brand messaging, we've got our products, we've got testimonial, we've got proof of social proofing. There's lots and lots of things that as a, again, let's put ourselves in a consumer hat. The advantage in marketers is that we're all consumers as well, so we can all flip that hat. The danger is that we stop being consumers, we put our marketing hat on, and then we start talking at customers rather than with. So we've got all of this consideration. So that's actually quite a long and considered area, so we'll make a bit of length on that. And that means that then, once we've actually got that first conversion, which takes a little bit of time, then we can start talking about how was it, and actually starting to get our feedback. So our prospects become a giraffe. I'll decorate that down in a second. So we've got giraffe as our prospects, but our customers, well, what do they become? How does that work? Well, as we said, we've still got our objectives. They don't change. We've still got our list of marketing marketing propositions, and we know these are known customers. So we've got a definite segment. So that beginning bit actually isn't very good. But actually, as existing customers, the consideration is much shorter for any next purchase or for ongoing. So actually, we can make that really short because they already know us. So we're doing a different set of marketing here. We're probably kind of retargeting based on what they've done. But then we've got our consideration of actually how we're going to make them purchase again. So we've got next best products. We've probably got some kind of shipping or offers that we can give. We're going to probably be kind of marketing to them on a fairly frequent basis, and depending on your service, that actually might take some time to actually get your next sale. Still considering all the same, but this time we've got a little sausage dog. So, same 8 steps. Prospects as giraffes, existing customers as dogs. Thank you for shoehorning balloon twisting into marketing models. So to finish off, and just to kind of round it up, if there's one thing that you take away from today, take away this matrix. So for any campaign planning you're doing, for any channel planning you're doing, answer these 4 questions. Who are my segments and what defines them? Because that will help you with your key proposition and approach. What's the value of that segment? Is it worth pursuing them, or actually should I focus in other areas? Knowing who it is and what those messages could be, then what's my core offering? What's the thing that's going to approach? Come back to that psychology and behaviour of segments, and then you can talk about how do I best reach that segment. And if you, so again, let's go back into email world, my favourite place. Actually, if I've got prospects, I've got customers, I've got lapsing, what I send to them should be very different, mapped out very differently, but across this set of segments. So thank you for indulging me. Thank you for your time and attention. If you want to find me on LinkedIn, that's the easiest way to do it for this. If you just drop me a quick message, I will happily send you a copy of the slides. It would be lovely to continue this conversation. And if anyone's got any questions, or I was going to say any other requests for balloon animals, but I've pretty much done my whole repertoire now. I can do a snake or a stick if anyone requires. Thank you.